All right, welcome back to the deep dive. This time, we are going to crack open the 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss,
Oh, yeah.
which is, a pretty well-known book in the self-help and business world. It's a book that really kind of flips the script on how we think about work and life,
Yeah.
instead of that traditional grind away for decades before you can finally, kick back and enjoy yourself. Ferriss is basically like, no, you can design a life filled with adventure and purpose like right now.
Yeah. And that's the challenge, right? He throws down this gauntlet right at the beginning. I mean, he wants you to question this like really deeply ingrained belief that like we have to work tirelessly for years and years and years before we earn like the right to enjoy life.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, what if there's another way? And to really kind of drive that point home, he opens with this story of Mark, who's this millionaire, built this whole fortune, and it's just utterly miserable.
Right. Mark's story is like this wake-up call, right? For anyone who thinks that like money automatically equals happiness, he had all this material wealth,
Right.
right? You can imagine. But then he realized, oh, I spent years chasing things, not experiences. And I've surrounded myself with people I don't even like.
Yeah, and it's this very stark reminder that success, as traditionally defined, doesn't necessarily lead to fulfillment.
Right.
So that's where the 4-Hour Workweek comes in. And it's not about like becoming a millionaire, it's about accessing this lifestyle that's usually associated with wealth,
Right.
but without necessarily needing millions in the bank.
Yeah, yeah. It's like redefining what wealth even means, right?
Yeah.
He introduces this concept of the new rich.
Okay.
And these are people that like prioritize time and mobility as like the ultimate currencies for a fulfilling life.
Mm.
And they stand in stark contrast to these, what he calls the deferrers, right? Who delay gratification for some future payoff that may or may not come.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just about having the money. It's about the freedom to choose how you spend your time, how you spend your energy.
Exactly, yeah.
So, these new rich, how do they actually think differently?
Well, for one, they aim to have other people work for them.
Right.
So they're building systems and businesses that can generate income
Yeah.
without like requiring this constant hands-on involvement.
Okay.
And that frees up their time to pursue their passions. Whereas the deferrers are often like striving to work for themselves, but then they end up getting trapped
Yeah.
in the day-to-day grind, always working, never really living.
Okay, so the new rich are all about leverage, working smarter, not harder.
Absolutely.
What else kind of sets them apart?
They're masters of something he calls minimum effective load.
Okay.
They're like laser focused on finding the most efficient way to achieve the biggest impact with like the least amount of effort.
Yeah.
The laser versus a light bulb.
Okay.
They both produce light, but one is way more focused and efficient. The deferrers, on the other hand, they're often like prioritizing working whenever they feel like it, even if it's not the most productive use of their time. Like they're busy, but not always moving the needle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's not just about working less, it's about working on the right things.
Right.
In the right way.
Absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense. And then there's this whole idea of retirement, which Ferriss completely kind of reframes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Retirement for the new rich, it's not some like far off event that they wait decades for.
Yeah.
Instead, they sprinkle what he calls these mini retirements throughout their lives,
Okay.
recognizing that, like extended periods of complete inactivity, that's not really the goal.
Yeah.
It's about like actively pursuing passions and having adventures, whenever they want, not just at the very end.
Yeah, so instead of grinding away for 40 years and then hoping to enjoy your golden years,
Right.
you're taking mini adventures, actually living
Yeah, throughout your entire life.
your entire life. This really challenges that work until you drop mentality, doesn't it?
It completely dismantles it. He's arguing that, look, life is meant to be lived now, not postponed for some hypothetical future.
Yeah.
And this kind of leads us to one of the most, I think, compelling concepts in the book, which is the freedom multiplier.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is the freedom multiplier?
He wants you to understand that money's value isn't like fixed. It actually increases based on how much control you have over what, when, where, and with whom you work and live. He calls these the W's.
The W's, okay.
And he argues that like an 80-hour-a-week investment banker, right, earning $500,000 a year might have less power, quote unquote, than someone earning $40,000 who has complete control over their time and location.
Yeah, so it's not just about how much you earn, it's about the flexibility, the
Exactly.
choices that that money allows you to make. I mean, that really reframes how we think about wealth and success.
Totally. And he uses the example of Olympic skier Dale Begg-Smith to illustrate this. Right. He won Olympic gold while also running a multi-million-dollar IT company.
Wait, the Olympic skier with the Lamborghini?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember that.
Proving that you can achieve extraordinary things, right, in multiple areas of your life
Yeah.
if you approach things differently.
How do you manage both? Like how?
Well, he and his brother actually started the company when they were teenagers to like fund their Olympic aspirations. Right.
Wow.
So while other athletes were hitting the slopes for extra training, Dale was often in Tokyo meeting clients.
Interesting.
He was living proof that you don't have to choose between your passions and financial success. You know, you can find a way to do both.
Yeah, that's so inspiring. I mean, it really challenges that whole work-life balance idea.
Right.
Maybe it's not about achieving this perfect balance. It's about creating a life where different aspects can coexist
Yeah.
and even, reinforce each other.
Exactly. The key takeaway is to question assumptions and explore unconventional options. Like Julie and Mark, right? This couple who sailed around the world with their 3 young children for less than $20,000.
Less than $20,000. I mean, most people would assume, like, traveling the world with kids, forget it.
It's financially impossible.
Yeah, you're not doing it.
It defies conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
But Julie and Mark, they prove that it can be done.
Mm.
If you're willing to think outside the box and prioritize experiences over material possessions,
Yeah.
they embrace the challenges, right? They turn them into opportunities for growth.
Yeah.
Their kids actually learn to love reading during those long stretches at sea.
That's incredible. Their story really kind of embodies the whole spirit of the 4-hour work week, like redefining what's possible.
Absolutely.
Creating a life that aligns with your values.
Your aspiration.
Your aspirations, yeah. So how does Ferriss suggest people actually get started with all this?
He provides a roadmap
Right.
for reinvention in the form of his DEAL framework,
Okay, deal.
which stands for definition, elimination, automation, and liberation.
Okay, so you define your ideal life,
Yes.
eliminate distractions, automate income, and then liberate yourself from the 9-to-5 grind.
You got it. And the book goes into a ton of detail about each step, right? Providing this practical toolkit for transforming your life.
It's starting to sound pretty exciting,
Yeah.
but I have to admit, it also feels a bit overwhelming. Like, where do you even begin?
That's a great question. And he addresses that head on in the book. But before we dive into like the specifics of DEAL, there's another powerful concept that he introduces early on that I think we should talk about.
Okay, all right, so before we jump into deal,
Right.
what's this other important concept?
It's called fear setting.
Fear setting.
Fear setting, yeah. And it's this powerful technique for overcoming the fear and the paralysis that often hold us back
Okay.
from pursuing our dreams.
That sounds, I don't know, a little intimidating, to be honest.
I know, right? But it's actually incredibly liberating. Instead of letting fear control you, you're basically taking control of your fear. And you do this by systematically, like defining your fears and then developing concrete plans to mitigate them.
Okay, so it's like facing your fears head on, but with a strategy.
Absolutely.
Okay, can you walk me through an example?
Sure. Let's say you're terrified of quitting your stable job to start your own business, right?
Oh.
That's a common fear. With fear setting, you would start by identifying the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Like, what's the absolute worst thing that could happen if your business failed?
Well, I might go broke, lose my house, have to move back in with my parents.
Okay, those are some valid fears, right? But now comes the empowering part.
Okay.
You brainstorm ways to prevent that scenario from even happening.
Mm.
Maybe you start with a side hustle, right, to build up some savings before you even quit your job,
Yeah.
or you learn new skills to make yourself more marketable.
So you're basically creating a safety net.
Yeah, to cushion the potential fall,
Yeah, okay.
right? And you also consider, like, what steps could you take to repair the damage if the worst case scenario did occur? Maybe you network with people in your field, so you have contacts if you need to find another job.
Right.
You might consider downsizing your lifestyle to reduce your expenses.
So by, thinking through that worst possible outcome and planning for it,
Yeah.
you're taking away its power.
Exactly. And once you've gone through this process, you'll often find that your fears have lost much of their grip on you.
Mm.
You realize that even if things don't go exactly as planned,
Yeah.
you'll be okay.
It's incredible. It's powerful.
It is.
It's like he's saying, Don't let fear paralyze you. Acknowledge it, plan for it,
Yeah.
and then take action anyway.
Yes. He believes that this willingness to embrace discomfort,
Right.
to step outside your comfort zone, this is essential for achieving true freedom.
Makes sense if you're always playing it safe, avoiding anything that makes you uncomfortable.
Right.
You're never going to truly grow or experience all that life has to offer.
Exactly. It's like that quote from the book, what we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do.
Wow, okay, so fear setting helps you overcome those initial hurdles.
Right?
But then how do you actually start designing your ideal lifestyle? Like, where do you begin?
He suggests that you get crystal clear on what you want your life to look like.
Okay.
It's not enough to just have, like, vague dreams. You need specific goals and aspirations.
Okay.
And he recommends creating what he calls a dream line, which is basically a visual representation of your ideal life 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years from now.
A dreamline. I love that idea. It's like creating a roadmap for your future.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's one thing to like dream big. It's another thing to make those dreams a reality.
Right.
So how do you bridge that gap?
Once you've defined your dream line, the next step is to eliminate the things in your life that are not aligned with it.
Hmm.
And this includes, like, unnecessary commitments, time-wasting activities, even toxic relationships.
So it's about decluttering your life.
Yeah, to make space for the things that truly matter.
Yeah, okay.
He even recommends creating a low-information diet by unsubscribing from unnecessary emails, limiting your exposure to news and social media, and just being more mindful of your media consumption habits.
That's a great point. I mean, we live in a world of constant information overload,
Yes.
and it's so draining. So by filtering out the noise,
Yes.
you're reclaiming your attention and directing it towards things that align with your values, your goals.
Absolutely, and that frees up so much mental space and energy, right, to focus on what truly matters.
Yeah.
And this also ties into his emphasis on minimum effective load, which we talked about earlier.
Right.
He encourages you to apply this principle to all aspects of your life, not just work.
Okay, so it's not about doing more. It's about doing the right things
Yes.
in the most efficient way possible.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the financial side of things?
Right.
How do you actually create the freedom to live this lifestyle that you've envisioned?
That's where automation comes in.
Okay.
This is about creating systems that generate income without requiring your constant attention.
This is where it gets really exciting, right? Like the possibility of achieving financial freedom
Yes.
opens up a world of possibilities.
Absolutely. And he outlines several strategies for automating your income. You could create passive income streams like writing an ebook or designing an online course,
Mm.
maybe invest in real estate, explore affiliate marketing.
Those all sound great, but what about those of us who don't have the capital or the expertise to, invest in real estate or create a digital product?
He advocates for outsourcing as a way to free up your time and resources.
Okay.
So by delegating tasks to others, you can focus on your strengths and the things that only you can do.
Okay.
So you can hire a virtual assistant, right, to manage your emails and schedule, outsource your accounting or web development, or even get help with household chores.
Yeah, so you're basically building a team to support you.
Yeah, even if it's just a virtual one.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So what about creating a business that can run on autopilot?
That's like the ultimate goal for many people seeking financial freedom. Right. And he provides a framework for achieving it. He uses examples like e-commerce stores, software companies, online marketing agencies as models for businesses that can generate revenue with minimal ongoing input from the owner.
So how do you actually get to that point where your business is running smoothly without you constantly needing to be involved?
It's all about systems and processes.
Okay.
You need to create a clear structure for your business, document everything, and train your team to handle tasks effectively.
Okay.
And he advocates for something called management by absence,
Management by absence.
which is a philosophy that emphasizes empowering your team to make decisions and solve problems without needing your constant input.
That sounds a bit counterintuitive. How do you ensure that things are running smoothly if you're not directly involved?
It's all about setting clear expectations, providing the necessary training and resources, and establishing systems for, like, tracking progress and providing feedback.
Right.
You're not completely absent, but you're creating a structure that allows your team to function independently.
So you're creating a self-managing team
Yeah,
that can handle the day-to-day while you're focusing on the big picture.
exactly.
That takes a lot of trust.
It does. But that trust is essential for building a business that can thrive without you constantly needing to be there
Yeah,
And once you've achieved that, you've essentially created a machine that generates income whether you're working or not.
that's the dream,
That's
right?
as it does.
But even with all those systems in place, I imagine there are still challenges to running a successful business, especially if you're trying to, design a lifestyle that prioritizes freedom and flexibility.
Absolutely. It's not always easy,
Yeah,
and he doesn't sugarcoat the difficulties.
yeah,
But he also emphasizes that the rewards are well worth the effort.
okay.
And he provides strategies for overcoming common obstacles and navigating the ups and downs of entrepreneurship.
So even if it's not always smooth sailing,
Right.
it's about having the freedom to chart your own course.
Yeah,
Create a life that aligns with your values.
absolutely. And that brings us to the final element of the deal framework, liberation.
Liberation, it sounds so freeing.
It is. This is all about achieving the freedom to live and work wherever you want,
Hmm.
unshackling yourself from the traditional confines of a 9-to-5 job.
This is where things get really exciting. It opens up like a world of possibilities, from traveling the world to living in your dream city, or even just working from home in your pajamas.
Yeah, exactly. The key is to find what works best for you.
Yeah, right.
But achieving liberation often requires overcoming limiting beliefs and challenging societal norms.
Like the belief that you have to work in an office to be productive, or you can only travel when you retire.
Yes. He encourages you to question those assumptions and explore alternative ways of living and working.
Okay.
He advocates for escaping the office, embracing the mobile lifestyle, and even addressing the potential void that can arise when you suddenly have more time and freedom.
Escaping the office sounds amazing, but how do you actually make that happen?
It could involve negotiating a remote work agreement with your current employer, finding a job that allows you to work from anywhere, or starting your own location-independent business.
Okay.
The options are endless these days.
Yeah, and once you've escaped the office,
Yeah.
you can fully embrace that mobile lifestyle.
Right.
And it's not just about taking a one-time vacation.
It's about integrating travel and exploration into your everyday life.
Yeah, imagine working from a beach in Bali one week, a cafe in Paris the next, and then, heading back home to spend time with family.
Exactly. It's about having the freedom to
Yeah.
choose your own adventure.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. So what about those of us who aren't interested in traveling the world? How do we fill the void that can come with having more free time?
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
Having more free time doesn't automatically lead to happiness.
Okay.
If you don't have a sense of purpose or meaningful activities to fill your time, you can end up feeling bored and unfulfilled. So he encourages you to find activities that bring you joy and a sense of accomplishment.
So it could be pursuing a hobby, volunteering in your community, spending time with loved ones, or even learning new skills.
Exactly. It's about finding what makes you feel alive and engaged and using your newfound freedom to pursue those things.
This all sounds amazing.
Right.
But I have to be honest, it
Yeah.
also feels like a lot to take in.
I understand. I mean, the 4-hour work week is packed with information.
Yeah.
It can be overwhelming at first, but remember, it's not about implementing everything all at once.
Right.
It's about taking it one step at a time and adapting the principles to your own unique circumstances.
So it's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is that you get to choose your own adventure.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today exploring the core concepts of the 4-hour work week and how they can help you design a life of freedom and fulfillment. From challenging the default, to embracing discomfort, to automating your income and achieving liberation, Ferriss provides a roadmap for those seeking a different path.
He really does.
And while he offers a wealth of, practical advice and tactics for implementing these principles, he also emphasizes that it's not about following a rigid formula.
Absolutely not.
It's about finding what works best for you.
Yeah.
Creating a lifestyle that truly aligns with your values, your aspirations.
For sure.
But we're not quite done yet, are we?
Not quite.
There's one last piece of the puzzle we need to explore.
That's right. It all boils down to this idea that reality is negotiable.
Okay.
You have more power than you realize to shape your life and create a lifestyle that actually aligns with your values, your aspirations.
It's like he's saying, don't settle for the life you've been handed, take control, design a life you love.
Yeah.
But how do you make that happen?
Well, that's where this deal framework that we've been discussing comes in, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just a set of steps. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
Okay. It's curiosity. It's experimentation. It's a willingness to embrace discomfort.
So it's not about finding a one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah.
It's about using these deal principles as a toolkit to create a life that's uniquely yours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he provides a ton of practical advice, tactics for putting these principles into action.
Okay.
Whether it's defining your ideal lifestyle, eliminating distractions, automating your income, or achieving liberation.
He doesn't just tell you what to do.
Yeah.
He shows you how to do it.
Yeah.
He gives you the tools, the inspiration to take
But
control of your
it's-
destiny.
Yeah, and as we've discussed, the journey isn't always easy, right? There will be challenges, there will be setbacks along the way.
Sure.
But he wants you to know that, like, growth and change often happen outside of our comfort zones.
It's in those moments of discomfort that we truly discover what we're capable of.
Yeah, and that's where the real magic happens.
And that's where the real magic happens.
That's
There's
it.
that quote.
Yes.
What we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do.
Absolutely.
So if you're feeling stuck or unfulfilled or simply curious about exploring different possibilities, the 4-Hour Workweek is a great place to start.
For sure, it's a book that can challenge your assumptions, inspire you to dream bigger, and empower you to take action.
Yeah.
It's like an invitation to break free from the shackles of convention and design a life that truly reflects your values, your aspirations.
And as we wrap up this deep dive into the 4-Hour Workweek, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought.
Okay.
Ferriss argues that reality is negotiable. What seemingly unbreakable rule in your life might you be able to bend or break to create more freedom?
That's a powerful question to ponder.
It is, and we encourage you to explore the answers for yourself by diving into the pages of the 4-Hour Workweek. It's a journey that might just change your life.
You know, we've been talking a lot about questioning those default rules that society kind of hands us.
Yeah, like the whole idea that you got to work a 9 to 5, until you're 65, and then you can finally
Retire and then
and then you can enjoy life. But
travel the world.
yeah, Ferriss is like, no, there's a different way.
There's another way to do it, yeah.
But how do you actually flip that script?
Well, it comes back to this idea of the deal framework, right? We've been talking about it a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not just like a set of steps to follow. It's more like a mindset shift,
Okay.
It's about being curious, experimenting, and really embracing that feeling of being a little uncomfortable.
So it's not about finding this perfect formula or some magic bullet.
Right.
It's about using these principles as a toolkit to kind of craft a life that's really, truly your own.
Exactly. And he gives you so many practical tips and tactics to actually put these principles into action.
Okay.
Whether it's figuring out what your ideal life looks like, getting rid of all the distractions that are holding you back, setting up those systems to automate your income, or finally breaking free from that 9 to 5 grind.
I mean, he doesn't just talk the talk.
Well, he walks the walk.
He gives you the actual tools and the motivation you need to actually take control of your own life.
He does. And like we said before, it's not always going to be easy, right? There will be times when it's tough. You might even hit a few roadblocks along the way.
Yeah, for sure. You're going to stumble.
But you know what? Those challenges, those uncomfortable moments, that's where the real growth happens.
It's like you don't know what you're capable of until you push past your comfort zone, right?
Absolutely. And that's where the real magic happens, like you said.
Yeah.
Remember that quote we talked about before?
Yeah.
What we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do.
It's so true.
It's powerful.
So look, if you're feeling kind of stuck in a rut, maybe a little unfulfilled, or even just curious about what else is out there, the 4-Hour Workweek is a fantastic place to start.
It's like a breath of fresh air for anyone who feels like they're on autopilot. It's going to challenge how you think about pretty much everything, inspire you to dream bigger, and give you the tools to actually make those dreams a reality.
Yeah, it's like a permission slip to break free from the mold, and create a life that's truly meaningful to you.
Exactly. And as we wrap up our deep dives into the 4-Hour Workweek, we want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question.
Okay, hit me.
Remember how Ferriss says that reality is negotiable? Well, think about it. What rule in your life, something that seems totally unbreakable, could you maybe bend a little? Or even break completely to create more freedom for yourself?
Wow.
It's something to really think about.
Yeah, it's a big question.
It is.
But it's worth asking.
It is. And we encourage you to really explore this question for yourself. You dive into the pages of the 4-Hour Workweek and see where it takes you. It might just change your whole perspective on life.
Yeah, it might just change your life.
It might.
That's it for this deep dive into the 4-Hour Workweek.
Thanks for joining us.
Catch you next time.